right now. Today is the day that you choose to change the rest of your life. It is time to turn your setback into the greatest comeback story ever told, and nobody is more capable than you. This is the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast, the future #1 weight loss podcast in the world. I am your host, Donato Russo. I hope you enjoy the show today. If this is your first time here and you enjoy the show, please subscribe and spread the word of the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast wherever you are and to whomever will listen. If you'd like to connect on social media or wherever else, check out my Linktree page, Linktree/the Ranting Weight Watcher. Let's connect today. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 204 of the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast. If this is your first time here, I want to welcome you to the show. If you enjoy it, please consider subscribing. If the app that you're using to listen to the show allows you to write a review or rate the show, please consider writing a review and leaving a 4-star or 5-star rating. Doing this will promote the podcast growth by updating an algorithm, which in turn will make it easier for anyone else looking for a weight loss or related podcast that is using the same app as you. One of the best things you could do to support this podcast is to literally tell anyone you know that is in the same position we are all in, trying to live a healthy life. Tell them about the show. Show them how to find it. I want to give a special thanks to all of the financial supporters of the podcast. Thank you so much for considering the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast a worthy investment of your hard-earned money. If you are interested in becoming a financial supporter of this podcast, there is a Linktree link in the description of every podcast episode. When you click it, you will be taken to a website where you will see a button that says Become a Financial Supporter. Click that button and you will be given the options available so that you can choose from there. Well, let's not waste any more time. Let's get into this! Journey updates. There is really nothing to report this week because I stayed the same. So, amount of pounds lost this week is 0. Total pounds lost since January 2019 is 176 pounds. Total pounds remaining to get to the 200-pound milestone is 24 pounds. So I wanted to give you guys an update. As of last week, I hit the 8-week mark in my phase 1 of introducing strength training and trying to build consistency in it. I don't know that I have done anything thus far in this whole journey when I was trying to build a work ethic, right, in something I was doing. I don't know that anything that I have built out work ethics in where I have been as proud as I am of this. Because this one proved to be the most difficult to build consistency in. And part of that was there was a huge conflict into what I was enjoying versus what I needed to do based on what my goals were. And that's not unlike the same thing when people start to make choices between what they enjoy eating and what their goals are. It's the same mental space, but this was with activity specifically. See, I had come to love my walks, which, you know, if you ask me, I never would have told you this. If you would have asked me year 1 or year 2, whenever I started walking, if this would be a thing, if I thought that one day I would love my walks, I would never have said there's any way possible I would ever love walking or any kind of activity whatsoever. But nevertheless, I came to love the walks, and that was because of a major thing I found was this nature park that became a part of my walk. And then I made it a part of every day. So initially it started that I could only walk this park on Sundays. And that was purely because of timing. But then I arranged it so that no matter what day, the only day I could not walk it was Saturday. But every other day of the week, I made some way to be able to go walk this park. And the reason I couldn't walk it on Saturday is I walk way too early. The park doesn't open early enough. So now that I made this situation where essentially Sunday through Friday, I could walk the park any day of the week, I came to this feeling of tranquility. It wasn't a walk anymore for the purpose of losing weight. That's why it became so important in my life. It had nothing to do with losing weight anymore because it had become a place where I could release the stress of the day, where I could disappear and kind of be alone with my thoughts, where I could unwind and just release the negative energy that may have accumulated, whether it was from work or whatever the case may be. The original plan since the beginning was to lose 200 pounds and then reevaluate my life. The more I learned about the body in the process of this journey, the more I saw a problem with my goal. A lot of how we attempt to lose weight will dictate what we lose. A lot of how we feel our body during that time will dictate what we lose. If we are eating in ways that are not fueling our body to build or maintain muscle mass, like, for instance, if you aren't eating enough protein, your body will find the protein it needs, whether it has to eat away at your own muscle or not. Right? So this is the big disadvantage, right? And why we aren't taught strength training, it would be the key to it all, I don't know. But there's not a single doctor that has ever told me to go lift weights in my entire lifetime. They have said, get on a treadmill, get on a bike, go do some cardio, lose some weight. This was what they were taught to say. What do I know? But that's what I was told. So if I can lose muscle, water, or fat by doing cardio-related things, but I can't lose muscle if I'm strength training, I essentially eliminate that possibility by strength training. And I would have been better off by losing the weight that way. But when I came to the point and I hit the 175-pound milestone, I started to realize that if I spent my entire first however many years losing weight primarily by using cardio type activity, how much muscle did I have remaining? See, I was 3/4 of the way to my goal. I was going to get to 200, reevaluate my life. And if I'm being honest with you, I had already had it evaluated. And when I hit the 200-pound milestone, I was going to start lifting weights at that point. But again, I come to this realization that because of the way I chose to lose weight, because of the activity that I chose, there is no real telling of how much muscle mass I had left, how much I started with, all kinds of things were going through my head. And if it takes muscle to burn fat, and I was at a disadvantage in that method of how much of it did I start with and how much of it did I lose, how much harder would the final 25 pounds be if I had very little muscle mass left? These are the questions I was going through after hitting the 175 and saying to myself, I only have 25 pounds left. It also made me think I had to reevaluate my life sooner. And that was because of the conclusions I was coming up with, because of the thoughts I was having. How much muscle did I have? How much muscle did I lose because I was using cardio primarily to be my activity source? And so more and more, my thought process was, we are not going to be able to wait to get to 200 to introduce strength training. Strength training should probably be introduced now. So I go on this unbelievably long attempt to try to introduce strength training in my life. And I fought myself every step of the way. Every step of the way, I fought myself without even hesitating. And this was because of how much I loved that park. How much that park did for me with stress of work, releasing the aggravation of the day. Like, I would literally finish my workday, get as fast as it took me to get my sneakers on, grab my earbuds, and get out the door. That's where I went from work stress to stress relief. Because I didn't drive to the park. I literally stepped out my front door, walked to the park, walked through the park, and then walked home. That was the arrangement. So, because I was unwilling to let that go, because the workouts that I had designated that I would do come from a journal. I said to myself, since I love being at the park so much, I would do the body weight exercises at the park. This didn't prove to be as effective as I thought it would be. Because even though the motivation was still there to be at the park, I had to drive there because I was bringing stuff with me. I couldn't walk to the park and then walk home after doing this strength training workout. So I drive to the park, and quickly this became old. I did not like driving to the park. I did not like setting up all this stuff to just do a workout and then go home. So I was wildly inconsistent the majority of the time. I looked for any excuse just to go for a walk. I don't have time to be driving the car to this. Meanwhile, I was going to the same park. It just was not, I was not building the consistency that I wanted to. In the back of my head during all this time, I kept telling myself, if you would just wake up an hour early and do this at 4 a.m, there is still the opportunity, if you are stressed out from work, to go out for a walk after work. And it doesn't even have to be about, hitting a certain speed, going a certain distance, and making points out of it. You know what I mean? It could just be a casual walk for extra activity because at 4 a.m. you woke up and did what you planned to do for your primary activity source. And this was in the back of my head. So then I started attempting to do this. But I started to attempt to do this in a way, again, that would make me wildly inconsistent. When I tell you guys the hardest obstacle you will face is yourself, I'm giving you the example right now. because for some reason I told myself that it would be inconsiderate of me to set an alarm at 4 a.m. and I would look for other means to wake myself up so that I wouldn't disturb anyone. So I set alarms on my Fitbit, thinking the vibration from my watch would wake me up. And it did. Here and there, it woke me up. But mostly, I slept right through it. I missed so many times, so many attempted workouts were missed because I didn't feel the watch vibrating on my wrist. After months of attempting this and being wildly inconsistent, yet again, I decided enough was enough. It is time to set an alarm and get up for real. And that was the beginning of the real journey to make strength training consistent in my life. As I record this right now, I am in phase 2, week 2. So 2 weeks ago was the end of phase 1. Phase 1's goal was 2 times a week, wake up at 4 a.m., do one of the strength training workouts from the journal. And in this case, I started with the dumbbell journal because I wasn't going to leave my house at 4 a.m. to do the body weight exercises outdoors. It was dark. I wasn't doing anything of that. Could I have done the body weight exercises in the house? Sure, I could have. But in this case, I had access to dumbbells. Why wouldn't I want to do that? So Tuesday, Thursday became the days that I would wake up at 4 a.m. and strength train. And for the first time since all of my attempts, I was waking up consistently, doing the work consistently, and after 8 weeks, I accomplished the first phase. This was so important to me, and it was such a proud moment to me because I finally beat myself. Do you understand? When I tell you you are your own biggest obstacle, that's what that means. Everything that you encounter. So I encountered first not wanting to sit in my house at 4 p.m., so I moved it to the park. These were all obstacles I put in front of me. Then I went to the park with the body weight journal, and then I didn't feel like doing that. And then I told myself I would wake up at 4 a.m., but I had to be considerate. I couldn't set alarms to wake up at 4 a.m. I just had to do whatever it took not to disturb anyone. All obstacles I created in the process of trying to achieve a goal. That's what I mean when I say to you, you are your own biggest obstacle. The fact that I thought I would be successful at 4 a.m., that was way, way long ago. That wasn't something I just thought of. I knew that losing sleep, waking up early, and doing something would be far easier in my eyes than changing what I love at the end of the day. Isn't that something? I knew that from the beginning, and yet I did everything besides that. Before I opened that body weight journal, I knew I would be better off waking up at 4 a.m. And then before I decided to take that body weight journal to the park at 4 p.m., I still knew I would be better off at 4 a.m. All obstacles I created myself. I couldn't get out of my own way. Then finally, I stopped trying to reinvent the wheel and I just do what's necessary. I finally removed myself from the equation. The last few weeks, I've been talking about that. I've been talking about removing yourself from the equation, making it so that you are no longer the obstacle. because we have plenty of life's obstacles. We are not helping ourselves by becoming one. We're going to take a break. Don't go anywhere. I now present to you the Ranting Weight Watcher Accountability Creed. If you choose this day to say this creed, you are accountable to me, the author. You are also accountable to all of those before you who have taken the creed, and all of those after you who will take the creed. But most of all, you are accountable to yourself. Now recite with me the Accountability Creed. Nothing can stand in my way because I choose to be unstoppable. My challenges crumble in my presence because I choose strength when I am weak. My insecurities have no power over my life because I choose confidence in the face of fear. I own every last one of my mistakes because I choose growth over mediocrity. The mirror and the scale are powerless because I move forward in spite of the result. Circumstances are not obstacles because I see solutions instead of problems. The demons of my past can no longer torment me because I choose to renew my mind daily. All things are possible as long as I believe, because if God is for me, who can be against me? This is the creed I declare each day. It is about what I do, not what I say. I will learn the work that needs to be done. I will never stop, even when I've won. I will work consistently, no matter the cost. I refuse to believe that all hope is lost. I will work when I want to. I will work when I don't. I will work when they are cheering. I will work when they won't. I will work when it's easy. I will work when it's hard. The atonements that I've made are made with no regard. I will work when it's cold. I will work when it's hot, because choices have consequences, justified or not. When I think I know it all, I will start back at one, because regardless of what I think, the work is never done. And from this moment forward, when times are tough, I choose to believe that I am enough. And we are back. Thanks for sticking with me. When I finished the final week of phase 1, I was so proud in that moment because of everything, because it really meant, the actual meaning of that moment meant I removed myself from the equation. I finally did it. After months and months and months of attempts, I finally removed myself from the equation. So the plan for phase 2 was to go from 2 days a week to 3 days a week, waking up at 4 a.m. to strength train. The end goal in all of this is to walk 5 days a week. And on 3 of those 5 days, I will also strength train. And I would still have 2 rest days. That is the end goal right now. But it felt so good. It felt so good to get there. And it's one of the things I always impart to you guys, that when the moment you finally do what you say you're going to do on a consistent basis, it is transformative. I can't say it with any better word than that. Your entire attitude and outlook on yourself completely changes. Right now, you're quick to anger at anything you do wrong. You're quick to beat yourself up and criticize yourself. And I did all of those things. And randomly, I lose control and do it now. But it's nowhere near what it used to be. By building all of this consistency in my life with how I build it, I eliminated the anger toward myself, the criticizing of myself, because I know the work ethic. I know what is put into my lifestyle. Look, everyone out there knows the real person they are. And so this is why you attack yourself so quickly, is because if you know you're wildly inconsistent, you're going to be very ready to attack yourself. And the people around you would be very ready to stop you attacking yourself. And in reality, maybe it's because they don't know what you're really doing. What you know you're not doing is what haunts you in the moments where things aren't going right. You see, when you stare in the mirror, you see the real you. You see the things you're not doing. You know, and you can't hide from yourself. And this is why it's very easy to rip yourself apart, because you know what you're not doing. But if you start to build consistency on all of those things you're not doing, and you eliminate them off of the checklist over and over and over again, when you're staring in the mirror, suddenly there's this new sense of pride, because you have eliminated yourself from the equation. Suddenly there's no reason to rip yourself apart. And on the rare occasion that you do, it's probably just you're being dramatic. And someone like me should come and smack you, reset your thinking, and say, hey, get over it, move forward. Because what you're doing now, you know it in your knower, that it's not helping you. Every moment that you mess up, the next moment is the opportunity to get going. When someone falls off the horse, what do they say? You have to get right back on. Why? Because you'll never ride again. It will become this traumatic event that you'll never do it again because you're afraid the more time you stay away. But if you get back on, you'll get over it quicker. This theology can be applied to literally anything you do wrong. Any day you have one of those, oh, I blew it on this meal, the next meal is your next opportunity. And if you stopped seeing it as, well, I blew it, so I might as well start Monday, to I blew breakfast, I'm going to get back on track at lunch. And what's my plan for lunch? And your plan isn't about making up for the mess up at breakfast. Your plan is simply to do whatever it is you had planned to do for lunch. You understand? Because there's no making up for the mess up. There isn't. Breakfast is the anomaly. You can't make up for it by eating bird food. You can't make it. It's not about making yourself feel better. It's about getting back to normalcy. It's not about, oh, I ate terribly. I had a dozen donuts at breakfast. So now I'm drinking water, lemon water, and I'm having some lettuce leaves for lunch. That's not how it works. If your plan was to have a grilled chicken sandwich at lunch, you eat the grilled chicken sandwich and you move on with your life. because you're not making up for the 12 donuts that you didn't plan to have. Building consistency removes you from the equation. It removes you as a variable. You are no longer the obstacle. And when you are no longer the obstacle, you are free. Free from the condemnation of what you see in the mirror that no one else can see. That condemnation is no longer there. I'm not telling you this because I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not making this up. I'm telling you this because I've experienced it. And now here I am in phase 2 of strength training. And I know that I did it. I did what I said I was going to do. If you're listening right now and consistency is an issue in your life, you can go to my website. And if you scroll down on my website, there are a bunch of PDF documents I made available to download. One of them is called the Checklist Challenge. You can download that PDF. You can print it out. It is the skeleton created to make anything in your life consistent. You can follow. If today's your day 1 and you're not consistent in anything, you can literally follow it from phase 1 to however many phases. I don't even remember. It's 2 pages that I laid out of introducing things into your life slowly, 8 weeks at a time. Starting from tracking, to weighing and measuring, to moving, to reading about nutrition, all of it. Go to therantingweightwatcher.com, download the Checklist Challenge, print it out, and follow it. It's literally one of the best things I've ever discovered. How many times did I say, oh, well, I'll start again on Monday? How many times did I do that before I realized it was never necessary to be perfect to begin with? Took me years to realize that. Years. And I sit here and I scream it from this microphone over and over and over again so that in the hope that you guys grasp it sooner than I did. The last 5.5 years have been transformative in my life in many more ways than my weight number. Many, many more. And all of it is possible in your life if you start to do everything consistently, 97% accurate. You'll change your life. I guess what I'm telling you is you get from this what you put into it. If you put in half-ass effort, you get half-ass results. If you're skipping things and cutting corners, you're going to get results based on what you actually do. Not what you pretended to do, not what you told people you did, but what you actually did. You see, 2 years ago, in October of 2022, I applied for a job. And that job was to be a trainer full time. I didn't put the effort in. That's the God's honest truth. I figured I'm an internal candidate. I already work for the company. I'm a certified trainer. I'm a shoo-in. There's no reason I shouldn't get this job. I essentially clicked apply and attached my resume without even updating it. I didn't get any response at all. Fast forward to the end of June of this year. the exact same position opens up again. I see it there. I decide to apply. I applied the weekend prior to the 4th of July. But this time when I applied, I took it seriously. I did everything anyone would do that was applying for any job. I completely forgot the idea that I work for the company already and that I was already a certified trainer. And I went at this as if I didn't deserve it, but I was taking a shot anyway. And I was going to give it my best effort. And from beginning to end, I did. I updated my resume. I did everything possible I needed to do. And this time, I got a call back. They set up an interview. I spoke with the first person, who then told me that there would be 2 more interviews. I then got the call, made the cut for the second interview. After the second interview, they told me if I would make the cut, I would be called upon to do a mock training session for the people interviewing me. Days before my mock training session, I was given the instructions for my training session. And that was to develop my own training on any particular subject and be prepared to present it. I was not prepared to do this. I thought it was going to be, they give me a piece of lesson plan and I would teach what they gave me. That's how I became certified. But that's not how they wanted me to interview for this job. So all of my plans for that weekend were basically cut short. Sorry, can't do anything. And I went to work creating a lesson plan on a subject topic of my choice. I put my full effort in to creating this lesson plan and to make it on a topic that is high impact, but very easy to talk about and very easy to fix. The day comes when it's time to give that presentation. I give the presentation, and then it's just a long waiting game. See, I walked away from that knowing I gave it my all. From beginning to end, I gave it my all. I eliminated myself as the person that would be at fault for not getting it. That if I wasn't chosen, it wasn't going to be because of me. I did it. I walked from that moment confident that whatever the answer was going to be, I would feel good about my performance because I did it the best way I knew how. And if that wasn't enough, I'll go back to the drawing board and I'll learn again. And the next time the position becomes open, I'll do it differently. As I'm recording this on Tuesday night, September 10th, a week ago today, I received a call. They offered me the job. I accepted the job. What was really the difference between the first time I applied for this job and the second? What was the difference between failure and success? The unrelenting effort, regardless of how imperfect my presentation was, versus absolutely no effort and just expecting it to work out. That was the difference. That's what I'm trying to teach you right now. The difference between you achieving all of the success you've ever wished for and never achieving it is your ability to remove yourself from the equation. No, Don, it can't be that simple. It can't be that black and white. It's so much more to this. It's so much more complicated. You don't understand my life. I'm sorry. I know you don't like hearing me say this, but you're wrong. It is that simple. It's not complicated at all. We live in a very black and white world. The problem is there are a bunch of people who like to live in fantasy lands in the delusion that they are not at fault for exactly the problems that they have. And then they expect the rest of the world to believe the same thing. And I'm telling you, as much as you don't like it, the world is black and white, and if you believe it's not, you're believing the lies you tell yourself. It is that simple. If you give yourself 110% of your effort, regardless of how imperfect you may be, you will achieve eventually everything you've ever wanted. The common denominator between success and failure is you. And until you realize that, until you make the corrections necessary, you're like a hamster on a wheel. So if you want to live this pretend happy life and just be a hamster on a wheel, go right ahead. But it is not your job to convince the world that you're not a hamster on a wheel, because that's exactly what you are. And if you don't like that image, fix it. That doesn't mean you fix the world. That means you fix you, because that's the real problem. The person that has the problem is staring back at you in the mirror. And until you fix that person, you're always going to have this problem. And it's not going to matter what the world thinks of you. You could get 100% acceptance from the entire world, and you still would be miserable. Because you know the person you stare at in the mirror is the real person. And the only way to fix that conflict is to do what's necessary. So, it's your choice every minute of every day. It doesn't matter if you already messed up today. It doesn't matter how many more times you mess up after today. It only matters that the next opportunity that comes along, you take advantage of it, and you run with it. You give it 110% of your effort, regardless of how imperfect of a person you are. Because perfection isn't necessary. Consistency is necessary. I love each and every one of you. God bless you all.